Hey everybody, welcome to the next mentality tip. Last mentality tip, I had you guys do a little bit of a homework assignment. It's a very important assignment. I hope a lot of you guys really participated in this. The first part of it was just to write down the beliefs and really look at what are the beliefs that I've adopted, the new ones maybe that I've picked up out of the last 6 mentality tips. How have I been reinforcing these to bring them to a level of conviction? What conflicting or limiting beliefs did it allow me to discover, whether it was specific, global, or identity about myself? How am I actively, what is my action plan to developing my new beliefs, reinforcing them, moving them to a tremendous amount of emotional intensity with them? And what is my action plan to eradicate limiting, self-beliefs or limiting or conflicting beliefs? Hopefully you're able to do that. The second part of it was really a very important part of it, and it's not necessarily easy, but it was to take over a week, and of course now you've had 2 weeks between mentality tips, so hopefully you've done it over the course of 2 weeks. But was to take and just kind of really throughout the course of a day, really look at the emotional responses that we're having to things that we would normally not even register. They're just small little trigger things, okay? So all of our interactions with family, so spouses, children, co-workers, physical inanimate objects, okay? If you're a mechanic and you're working on a car, that car can give you an emotional or a physical response to it. Okay, wrench slips off, you scrape your knuckles, something's, the way they build cars, it doesn't come out the way it should come out. Whatever it is, you get what I'm saying. It doesn't have to always be with another human being. Now, I want to make this quick because there's a lot to talk about when it comes to this stuff. Why I wanted that is because when we're talking about perceptions and beliefs and what things mean to us, that perception or belief in our body will automatically, our brain will ask us a question. What does this mean to me? Well, we look at it from the perception and the belief side of things, and we look at our feelings and how that affects our actions, but what we have to recognize is that it creates within our brain a self-talk, an internal dialogue. Now, this happens to every single person in the world. We all experience self-talk or internal dialogue all the time. Most of us, self-talk and internal dialogue takes the form of literally a conversation we're having with ourselves in our minds. We also sometimes, most times when we're by ourselves, can literally be having a conversation with ourselves out loud. If you're fixing something around the house, you got a broken toilet or a septic tank or whatever it is you happen to be working on, or a furnace, and you're down there and you've never really worked with that stuff before, so you're trying to figure out, a lot of times you're thinking out loud. Now, how does that piece get in there? And how do I, that's internal dialogue, that's self-talk. Now, what I wanted you to become aware of is, for most people, if you asked them, are you on average, as a whole, are you a negative or a positive person? Most people would be, yeah, overall I'm pretty happy, I'm pretty positive. You know what I mean? It's not like I walk around smiling all day like an idiot, but I'm pretty happy, I'm pretty positive and stuff. When you really break down and look at their states, literally minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day, week to week, if you actually were regulating that, monitoring like I wanted you to do, if I was ever following you around and watching you just interact and watching your emotional states and writing down, exhibiting signs of anxiety, exhibiting signs of frustration, exhibiting signs of, sadness or depression, exhibiting signs of withdrawn or, apathy. All of these different things, or exhibiting signs of happiness, exhibiting signs of confidence, exhibiting, all of these different emotions. It's very hard for us in the beginning, actually, when you start doing this type of drill, when you have an emotion, you tell your child to put their toy away. You walk back in the room half an hour later and the toy's still sitting out there. You're going to have a reaction to that. Now, this is just a small trigger. Most people are not going to fly off the handle and go crazy, but you're going to look at that, and some people are going to internalize that as the child not respecting them. Depends on the age of the child and the situation, but saying, listen, I told you to put the toy away. I'm not telling you again. And it's like, all of a sudden you say, what are you feeling right now? And it's like, what do you mean, what am I feeling? I'm not feeling anything. You are feeling something. You could be feeling a sense of frustration for having to tell the child 5 or 10 times. Okay, well, this is what I was trying to drive at. We need to become aware of all of the small little triggered emotional states, because what happens is that happens to us. That's a feeling that's created because of our perception and our belief. That's what we're talking about. In a combat condition, this is going to get amplified, but here's the link that I'm showing you now. Those feelings but coming from those perceptions, if we got to become aware of them, because they create a self-talk. They create an internal dialogue. And that internal dialogue will drive and fuel the emotion. Put this into combat. And Paul Vunick used to always tell me, the number one opponent you will ever fight in your life, your righteous fight, happens every single day because it's your internal opponent. It's the visceral opponent. It is your internal dialogue. It's yourself. If you don't learn to regulate and control and win the battle against the internal dialogue, which basically means this: stop the negative thought processes, stop the negative cognition, the internal dialogue. You have to control it and change it. It always happens. Sometimes it's loud enough that we're aware of it, and other times it's happening very quietly and very quickly and we're not aware of it. The child doesn't put the toy away, the frustration comes in, that internal dialogue is starting to go. Your internal voice has told you, man, how many times do you have to tell this kid? I mean, this kid's just not, it's not just like it doesn't care, it's not respecting you. Doesn't understand and appreciate that you're the father of this house, that you pay for these things. You know, and it's not a mean way. It doesn't come out as an abusive attitude in most people. It's just a little bit of frustration. But it is creating that internal dialogue. It's just not important enough that the dialogue is quiet and soft and in the background. But we got to regulate it, because when you get into a combat situation and you got somebody in the middle of that situation, big strong guy coming at you, and he's throwing those punches, and what happens all of a sudden when we take a shot to the head? What happens when we get hit in that nose and our nose breaks, or we get cut over the eye, or we get 2 broken ribs, or we get hit with a stick, or we fall flat on our face, we slip on the ground trying to get this big beautiful straight blast in there, and bam, straight in our face, knock the wind out of ourselves, 2-3 guys jump on. You know what's going to happen in those amplified situations? Your brain's going to go, son of a bitch, that hurt. And the second, if your voice or your internal dialogue goes, that hurt, or goes, holy shit, that guy's fast, or my God, that guy's a monster, or that guy's so strong. Guy happens to get a hold of your shirt and flips you across the room, and you're, holy shit, that guy's strong. That is an internal dialogue. That's just not a thought that popped out of your head. Internal dialogue is occurring. That internal dialogue is not going to serve you in a fight. That's a negative internal dialogue. It's got nothing to do with the situation at hand. It is creating what is called secondary stress. There's 2 types of stress: primary stress and secondary stress. Primary stress is all of the normal stress, the normal arousal levels that are associated with the specific mission. You got to fight 2 guys and one guy's got a knife, there's a normal amount of stress and arousal that'll come from that situation. That's actually healthy arousal. That's good for condition red. But then there's a secondary amount of stress that has nothing to do with that situation. And it just can be limiting thought processes, or it can be, again, where your head's at, thinking about how fast the guys are strong. It doesn't make a difference. It is what it is. It's not going to help you. Okay, so what I wanted to get was to have you really look at it. So instead of just saying, oh yeah, I'm a positive person, look at what you are day to day, minute to minute, okay? And then from that, we can look at what our majority of our self-talk is over the course of a day and a week and a month and a year, whatever it is, and we can start to become aware of it, which means we can start to control it. Okay, so that was where I was driving with this. We have to get to the point that under a critical, sudden stress situation, even if we're getting hit in the head, we slip, we fall, we get stabbed, we break a couple ribs, we take 3 or 4 bullets, we have to be able to control the tactical self-talk. That is a huge part of controlling the beliefs. It's called managing expectations. If you expect to win, if you expect to survive with conviction, you will survive. If you expect to wipe somebody out that tries to mess with you or your family 9 out of 10 times, you're going to wipe that guy out. If you do not expect to do that, oh my God, he's too fast. That is like saying, oh, this guy's way faster than me. I totally expect to get hit now. You are going to get hit over and over and over again. And I don't care how great your game plan is. When you expect to fail, you will fail. That's where I'm driving with this. I didn't start talking about managing expectation. I started talking about control and awareness of internal dialogue through being aware of our emotional states, our mental states, and our physical states, second by second, minute by minute, day by day, week by week, because that's where you need to start. So make sure we've got this, take a look at it, and understand that where we're going to drive forward on this is how to manage our expectations. Till next time, take care and come on, May.